So today what I'm going to be talking about is Manifest Destiny and the expansion westward. The Manifest Destiny, is described as the idea of moving and expanding in the United States. And the main topics I'm going to be talking about today are, for one, the transcontinental railroad and how people made it made it out to be, and the way it took over many parts of the United States. In the beginning, the building of the Transcontinental Railroad was greatly huge and massive, but it came with a lot of issues with the building of the railroad. The railroad, for one thing, it was time consuming, but it was officially done if you think about it, because it only took around 20 years to complete. Um, Within those 20 years, there was many issues that arose throughout the whole thing. If it wasn't the people, it was something else, but it was usually always with the people. Some people really did not like the idea of a railroad being built, a transcontinental railroad being built, considering that it was just taking over everything. Like, it wasn't taking over everything, but what I mean with that is that they was taking over their land, which they have been there for before the railroad was planned to be built. It was connected. The way I'm gonna be connecting the transcontinental railroad to the octopus is in the way that in the octopus it is described as the way that the octopus is is hugely related to the transcontinental railroad, in the sense that, like I described, many people did not like the idea of the railroad being built, especially the way that it took over their land. I know it might sound repetitive, but it was just a huge issue with the people, considering that this is the main idea of the octopus. The octopus goes into detail of many characters, which had to go through many things surrounding the idea of the transcontinental railroad coming in and taking over their land, basically. Many people did not like that. As I said before, they were already there, and since they were already there, they felt more that it belonged to them. The land belonged to them. They even got into issues with the law and to keep the land. But in the end of the story, which which a big part of the story was about the Hooven Ranch. The Hooven Ranch, there was a Hooven man. When doing research following along with the octopus, and in my paper, The Octopus, what I found is that there was an interesting massacre that was called the Muscle Slaw Massacre, which wasn't really a popular event that many people know of, unless you're reading about the history of the Transcontinental Railroad and the issues that arose with it. In the Muscle Slaw Massacre, which occurred in May 11th, 1880, the Muscle Slaw Massacre occurred 6 miles northwest of Hanford, California. This event took place in Hanford, California, which is now part of Kings County. And in this event, a total of 7 were killed the day of the massacre. The fight erupted the 11th of May 1880, which was long coming since there was already fire heating up the whole situation, which was about the land, like I mentioned. The amount of land which was in dispute was a total of 25,000 acres, which was originally meant to be used for the construction of lines of southward through California, the southward Transcontinental Railroad. The land was granted to the Southern Pacific Railroad in 1866 by the U.S. government as a subsidy. A group of settlers of the Muscle Slaw believed that the railroad had given up since there hadn't been any work started on it, but they were wrong. of course, as the incident occurred. The way that this event heated up was when the U.S. Marshal arrived at the ranch, and the settlers did not like the idea of him trying to take over the land, so they decided to arrest, quotation marks, the U.S. Marshal, and the Southern Pacific employee that accompanied him. This case was violent, of course, and it was a long way coming, of course, since they, like I keep mentioning, but the way that they were treated and felt that the people that were already there, they felt that it was their land, and I had to agree with them, because for the government just to be coming in and thinking that, oh, give me your land, which wasn't really fair for them. The octopus brings it. The way that this relates to the octopus is that the same way that in Hoover Ranch, there was a very similar situation that occurred when they were trying to take over the ranch for the railroad. The railroad, although important, did cause a lot of problems with the people, and it continued until its completion. Even after its completion, it was still causing problems. Another issue that occurred with involving people was an event that occurred in May 1886 when the company of Union Pacific was attacked by a group of Indians, and the tribes that were included were of the Sioux, Arapaho, and Cheyenne tribes, who were understandably threatened by the progress of the white man, who came in here with their iron horse and their iron tools, thinking that they are better than the native. The struggle for the land was the overall situation in the progress of the Transcontinental Railroad, as many did not want to give up their land. And the railroad and the octopus is probably the most significant thing in the book. The railroad was expanding during the time the book was written, and it was necessary for expansion. That's the reason why Manifest Destiny occurred. Many believed it was a good thing that as many products could be shipped faster than before. But many did not like that the railroad, because it would drastically change their lives and possibly take away their land, and they had strongly worked to build and maintain. I would I I would be dumbfounded if I was in this situation where many were back then, and I would not know truly what to do. The railroad was a powerful moving change that occurred in many lives, and it would have been a struggle to for everything taken away from you. My final thought on the railroad expansion is that the railroad got greedy and felt entitled to everything, no matter what the people thought about it, and what they had strived to succeed. Conclude the part of the railroad and the Transcontinental Railroad and the beginning, the middle, and the end of the construction of the railroad. I had to say there was many positives and negatives, of course. The positives were that there was going to be more available ways of transportation for people to get around, of course, for one thing, for goods to get around, and that was greatly needed as many people were moving out of their areas. Many people moved from one part of the country to the other part of the country, and they needed to get resources in order to survive. The negatives were, of course, that people did not like everyone just the railroad trying to take over their land, and there was a huge fight between them of why would they come and try to take over their land. The main issue with the Transcontinental Railroad was between the land, and many people did not like that, and they ended up killing, dying, and just feeling really depressed and sad about it. And it had to be done, but also could have been done in a different way, in my opinion.